G'day guys, Forristicat here. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are at the moment. Today I want to share my thoughts on two games, Ico and Shadow of the Colossus HD Collection. Now, I remember when I originally bought an Xbox instead of the Sony route. I only read about Shadow of the Colossus, and I heard its praise, and I was attracted to the storyline. And I sort of was sort of disappointed that I couldn't play it because I purely didn't have a PlayStation console. So when I was online once and I saw talk that it was being re-released with another game which is by the same developers, Team Ico, I knew that I was definitely going to get this. You guys might have heard that I used to be like just the typical gamer, whatever that is, and just for fun. But more often than not now, I'll only get games that have a good storyline, or open-ended games, or RPGs like your Mass Effects and your Skyrims, so that I can sort of create my own story, sort of like direct the camera, and sort of the way I play a game is like I'm thinking like, if this was a movie, this is how I would want like the storyline to be in the movie. So that's what sort of gets me addicted to these games. Like the way I'm playing Skyrim, I'm playing it almost like a television show in my head. That's how I get enjoyment from it. Thinking, okay, what's happening this episode? Oh, okay, he's going to join the Thieves Guild. Okay, that's interesting, blah, blah, blah. So, having said that, the bottom line is I'm attracted to storylines in games now more often than anything else. As a result, I knew that when these games were getting released as a double pack, that I'll definitely be playing them. The first game, Ico, was a very interesting experience. It was, as I mentioned on the forum once, sort of more of a meditative experience more than anything else. That is to say that there is no music in the game, except the key moments, I think. I can't remember exactly. But it really is one of the most atmospheric games I've ever played. That is to say that when I started playing it and then I stopped playing it, it rubbed off on me to the point where I was going about life still thinking I was in like the temple there within the game, for example. So the storyline is you have horns and you're in a castle, and there's this girl that is also trapped in the castle. And there's all these evil spirits around, and they always try to kidnap her. You, as the main character of the story, the boy, first have to rescue her, and from that point onwards, grab her hand like a man, I guess, and lead her like to escape, basically. Now that sounds, when I'm saying it right then, it sounds almost cliche. But when you actually play it, it's one of those games that is more of an experience than a game. Just the whole depth and wideness, and the winds and the chains moving, and just how three-dimensional everything feels. It's like as close as you can get to like actually feeling that you're in like a massive big open space castle, or like a massive big island, and you see a point over there where you could get to, but you get that in other games like Skyrim or whatever, that you can see a point in the distance. But this one really, it made it feel like you're actually there, like in a three-dimensional space, and that's something that I don't get very often from video games. So that was very atmospheric. Also, it was very sort of relaxing. Like most games you play, to have fun, fight, whatever, fight night, round 4, whatever. I understand that, but this game is really like, you can't like play this game to get your rocks off, if you know what I mean. Like it's very much sort of like a peaceful game. There are several puzzles in it, so you do have to think a little bit, but more often than not, it's sort of like a very peaceful, like relaxation experience. You hear like birds there, you see different like waves crashing and stuff, and then at the end there's other stuff going on. So in that regard, like it's a very unique game, and the storyline also is fantastic. The ending I especially liked, and I liked how it has a connection with Shadow of the Colossus, which is the other game in the series. I think the way they ended Shadow of the Colossus is it sets it up that Shadow of the Colossus is like the prequel to Ico, and the developers have spoken out on this and said that you can draw your own connections. But I don't want to spoil it too much, so I'm not going to get into that. But there's definitely a very intentional connection there between the two games. So Shadow of the Colossus. Well, Shadow of the Colossus. I did want to play Shadow of the Colossus before Ico, but I thought that the connection between the two games, I'd rather play the one that was made first. Ico, I think it was made in 2001, and then later on 2002, 2003, Shadow of the Colossus came out. But as it turns out, like I just mentioned, I think they set up how Shadow of the Colossus is done before Ico, chronologically speaking, even though Ico did come out before Shadow of the Colossus. So Shadow of the Colossus, basically, once again, there's not much background or history to where you are, except this time you're sort of open land where you can ride with your horse. You have a special sword which can guide you to your objectives, and the objectives in this case are boss fights. And when I say boss fights, I mean the whole game is based around you fighting these giant colossi. Giant colossi, I mean, it's basically huge beasts which in any regard, you would think that these guys are unbeatable. You have a girl that is dead, and she's on a temple, sort of an altar, and your main objective is to try and resurrect her. You make a pact with one of the gods there that if you can destroy 13 colossi, I believe it's 13, then perhaps she'll be resurrected. And it's just sort of like, this wasn't my words, this was actually from another review, but it was said that this sort of ambiguity as to whether or not this would actually work out for the best or not, which sort of was a really good element to the story. So there's statues in the temple, and every time you destroy one of these colossi, the colossi the statue disintegrates, and you sort of get one step closer to seeing her resurrected. So the ending was a little bit off. I didn't really like one particular part of it, but I don't want to get into spoilers, but sort of like what happens to the main character. But the ending, I did sort of like the connection that they drew between Ico and Shadow of the Colossus. But definitely, I'm all for epic moments in games, and they're few and far between. But I got to say, with Shadow of the Colossus, when you've got that music playing in the background, and you're this tiny little guy, and you're holding on by the skin of your teeth to a massive swinging beast, you get up onto his back, and then you just get your sword and just wham him straight in the back, in his weak spot. That is sort of like one of those moments in games you're like, damn, this is the reason I'm playing video games for. And always in the background thinking, okay, will this actually make this girl come to life, this, that, and the other. It was a very epic feeling to it. And the last Colossus is pretty ridiculous. He's huge, he's massive. Just getting to him is a challenge, and he's firing all these fire bolts and like lightning strikes. So overall, it was a very fantastic game, and I recommend that you both check them out. And they're mostly experiences than games. Forristicat signing off. I'll give these games really high score, 9 out of 10. Check them out.